The collapse started 14 days ago. Your stored water ran out on day 10. You thought 50 gallons was conservative. It wasn't. You're a family of 4, 1 gallon per person per day for drinking, double that for hygiene. You burned through your stockpile faster than you calculated. Your water filter, the one marketed as survival grade, maxed out after filtering 1,000 liters from the creek. The membrane's shot. There's no way to confirm it's still removing bacteria. The backup generator ran out of fuel on day 8. You're carrying water 6 miles round trip, 8.34 pounds per gallon. Your back's giving out. The system was designed to keep you dependent, and you're feeling it now. But here's the truth. There are 3 technologies that generate, purify, and distribute water without infrastructure. They're not classified. They're just silent. Every prepper I know has a water problem. They just don't know it yet. You've got 5-gallon jugs in the closet, 55-gallon drums in the garage, cases of bottled water in the basement. You're building a contamination timeline, and the clock's already running. Here's what the survival industry doesn't advertise. Every container you're using is slowly poisoning what's inside. Plastic leaching starts immediately. BPA, phthalates, antimony. These chemicals migrate from the container into the water. The warmer the storage area, the faster it happens. That garage in summer hits 90 degrees. Your water's brewing toxins for months while you sleep. Even food-grade containers have a biological problem. Biofilm. It's a colony of bacteria that forms on any surface in contact with water. Microorganisms from the air, from your hands when you filled it, from the container itself. Slowly, invisibly. In translucent containers, you also get algae. Light penetrates the plastic. Algae spores settle and multiply. By month 6, you've got a green film coating the inside. Treated tap water stays safe for 6 months. That's the standard advice. Month 8, you're drinking contaminated water and hoping your immune system wins. The chlorine they added at the treatment plant breaks down. It off-gasses through the plastic. After 6 months, there's not enough residual left to keep bacteria in check. So you rotate your stock. You dump and refill every few months. 1 gallon per person per day for drinking. A family of 4 needs 120 gallons per month. That's not counting cooking, hygiene, or washing wounds. A 3-month supply is 360 gallons. That's 45 8-gallon containers, taking up an entire room in your house. And here's the part that kills you. Water is heavy. 8.34 pounds per gallon. Your 3-month supply weighs 3,000 pounds. If you're bugging out, you're leaving it behind. If you're bugging in, you're locked to that location, like a prisoner chained to a wall. You can treat it with bleach. 8 drops per gallon. Let it sit 30 minutes. That kills bacteria. For now. But bleach degrades in storage. After a year, it's lost 50% potency. After 2 years, it's mostly water with a chemical smell. Now you're rotating bleach, rotating water, rotating your entire survival strategy like a hamster on a wheel. You're not building resilience. You're building a maintenance schedule that collapses the moment you can't access fresh supplies. And in a real collapse, those supplies stopped coming weeks ago. So if you can't store it, make it. There are 13 trillion liters of water in the atmosphere above you right now. Humidity. Invisible moisture suspended in the air you're breathing, and you can pull it down. Atmospheric water generators. They've existed since the 1990 seconds. The technology isn't new. It's not experimental. It's just never been marketed to you as a survival solution, because if it was, you'd never buy bottled water again. Here's how it works. The principle is identical to a dehumidifier. You create a cold surface using a refrigeration cycle. Air passes over it. Water vapor condenses into liquid droplets. The droplets collect, drain into a reservoir, pass through filtration, and you've got drinking water. Compressor, condenser, evaporator. The same system that keeps your food cold, engineered to harvest atmospheric moisture instead. A small residential unit running at 30 to 50 watts produces 10 to 30 liters per day in environments with 60% humidity or higher. That's 2 to 6 gallons, enough for a family of 4 to survive indefinitely. In arid climates, you need larger units, more surface area, more energy draw, but it still works. Even deserts have moisture in the air. It's just less dense. You compensate with scale. The immortal aspect is this: there are no consumables if you design it right. No filters to replace if you pair it with a ceramic pre-filter on the intake. No membranes to clog. No moving parts except the compressor. And a quality compressor runs for 20 years without maintenance. The only input is electricity. Solar panels, microhydro, wind turbine. Any off-grid power source gives you unlimited water. Commercial systems exist. Watergen makes units designed for homes and offices. Source hydropanels use solar power exclusively, designed for arid regions where grid power doesn't exist. They're not cheap. You're looking at $2,000 to $5,000 for a residential system that produces 20 to 30 liters daily. But compare that to a lifetime of dependence. Bottled water at $200 per month. Over 30 years, you've spent $72,000 on plastic bottles that leach toxins and fill landfills. You can build a DIY version. Take a standard dehumidifier, modify the collection system, add proper filtration. $200 to $400 in parts. There are forums, build guides, people who've done it and documented every step. The technology is not restricted, not illegal, just not advertised. But here's the problem. The industry tells you AWGs are impractical because of energy requirements. That's half-truth propaganda designed to protect market share. Yes, they use electricity. But so does your well pump. So does your refrigerator keeping food cold. So does every other system you already depend on. The real reason they're not mainstream: a device that makes unlimited water from air kills the bottled water industry. $300 billion. Globally. It kills the storage container market. It kills the water delivery services. Revenue model suicide. But even if you're generating water from air, you still need to purify what you collect from rain, rivers, or questionable sources during emergencies. And that's where the second scam lives. You think that LifeStraw in your bug-out bag is insurance. It's not. It's a ticking clock. LifeStraw, Sawyer Mini, UV SteriPen, pump filters with ceramic elements. Every one of them has a death sentence programmed into the design, and you're carrying it into the collapse thinking it'll save you. Let's start with LifeStraw, because that's what everyone buys. $30. Feels tactical. It uses hollow fiber membrane technology. Water passes through thousands of microscopic tubes, with pores small enough to block bacteria and protozoa. Rated for 1,000 liters. Sounds like a lot. It's not. A family of 4 drinking 2 liters per day each burns through 1,000 liters in 125 days. 4 months if you're only drinking. Less if you're cooking. Less if you're cleaning wounds. And here's the problem. Sediment builds up inside the fibers. Biofilm forms on the surfaces you can't see. You can't clean it. You can't backflush it. You can't verify it's still filtering bacteria at 99.99%. The flow slows down, and you're left guessing whether the water coming through is safe or contaminated with Giardia, Cryptosporidium, or E. coli. You're drinking blind. Sawyer filters use the same hollow fiber technology. They claim 100,000 gallons. That's marketing fiction. In real conditions with dirty creek water full of sediment, you're looking at weeks of heavy use before the membrane starts failing. You can backflush them with a syringe. That helps, but it doesn't prevent eventual death. And if the filter freezes once, the water inside the fibers expands and ruptures the membrane at the microscopic level. Game over. You can't see the damage. You can't test it in the field. You just have a broken filter that looks fine and gives you cholera. UV pens like the SteriPen. Battery dependent. The batteries die in storage, even if you don't use them. Rechargeable batteries lose capacity over years. The UV bulb itself has a limited lifespan, 8,000 activations. If you're purifying water twice a day for a family, that's 11 years. Doesn't remove chemicals. Doesn't remove heavy metals. It only kills microorganisms by scrambling their DNA. If the water's cloudy with particles, the UV can't penetrate. You're sterilizing mud, pump filters, mechanical parts, springs, O-rings, seals. They all degrade. The ceramic elements crack if you drop the unit. The pre-filters clog just like everything else. Every single one of these systems shares the same fatal flaw: consumable components that can't be replaced after supply chains collapse. The industry markets them as long-term survival tools. They're not. They're short-term emergency devices. Days, maybe weeks of heavy use. They're designed to fail. So, what actually works? What can purify water for decades without breaking? The answer was commercialized in 1835. In 1835, Queen Victoria commissioned a water filter for the British Royal Navy. Diatomaceous earth, compressed into ceramic. No moving parts, no batteries, no membranes to clog permanently. It's still in use, not the design, the actual filters. Some of the original ceramic elements from the 1800s still filter water today in museums and private collections. We're not talking about replicas. We're talking about 190-year-old technology that still works. Here's how it functions. Gravity-fed water passes through ceramic pores. The pores measure 0.2 to 0.5 microns. That's small enough to physically trap bacteria, protozoa, cysts, sediment. Everything larger than half a micron gets caught in the ceramic matrix like a net catching fish. The water drips through clean on the other side. Simple, elegant, permanent. The immortal aspect is this: when flow slows down, you don't throw it away and buy another one. You scrub the outer surface with a Scotch-Brite pad or stiff brush. That removes the biofilm layer, the built-up sediment, the accumulated contaminants. Flow restores to near original rate. You can clean these filters hundreds of times. We're talking 20 to 30 years of daily use before the ceramic wears too thin to function. No replacement parts except the ceramic elements themselves after decades. The housing, the containers, the gravity-fed system, it all lasts indefinitely. You're replacing a ceramic candle every 20 years for $60. Not an entire filter unit every few weeks for $30. Effectiveness is 99.99% removal of bacteria and protozoa. Pair it with an activated carbon element, and you remove chemicals, heavy metals, chlorine, volatile organic compounds. You've got complete purification. No electricity, no batteries, no pumping. Just gravity and physics doing the work while you sleep. British Birkefeld. Berkey's the most recognized in the prepper community, and they've faced FDA scrutiny because the agency doesn't like them marketing as purifiers instead of filters. That's how you know it works. When government regulators try to suppress your marketing because your product is too effective and threatens municipal water monopolies, you're doing something right. Cost comparison. A complete Berkey system runs $300 to $400. Lasts 20 to 30 years with minimal maintenance. A life straw costs $30. Lasts 3 days of heavy family use in a real emergency. Over 30 years, you're buying hundreds of life straws. Thousands of dollars in replacement filters that end up in landfills. The ceramic system is a one-time purchase that outlives you and can be passed to your children. But here's why this technology isn't on the shelf at every outdoor store. A filter that lasts 30 years is a catastrophe for a business model built on selling you replacements every season. You buy it once, you're done. You're out of the market. You solved your problem permanently. And in an industry built on recurring revenue and planned obsolescence, a permanent solution is a threat to quarterly earnings. But a filter that lasts 30 years is worthless if you don't have water to filter. And in a grid-down collapse, your well pump stops, your faucet runs dry, and water trucks aren't coming. That's when you realize the third lie. You were never supposed to be able to get water without permission. Day 14 of the collapse. Municipal water stopped on day 2. Your well pump needs electricity you don't have. The creek is a 6-mile round trip through hostile terrain. Water delivery trucks stopped running a week ago. You're not just thirsty. You're trapped in a system that was designed to make you dependent. And now you're learning that dependency is a cage. Municipal water supply is a single point of failure. Treatment plants need power to run the pumps that pressurize the distribution lines. The grid goes down. The water stops flowing within hours. Even if the reservoir is full, even if the infrastructure is physically intact, without electricity to push water through the pipes, your faucet runs dry. The water's sitting there half a mile away in a tower. You can see it. You can't access it. Your well is the same trap. Deep wells need submersible pumps running on 240-volt power. No grid, no pump. You've got thousands of gallons of water 200 feet below your property. It might as well be on Mars. Hand pumps work, but only for shallow wells under 25 feet. Anything deeper, and you're pulling water with mechanical advantage that exhausts you after 5 gallons. Try doing that 3 times a day for a family of 4. Your shoulders give out by day 3. Your back starts failing by day 5. Natural sources. Rivers, lakes, streams. They're all contaminated with agricultural runoff, industrial chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria from dead animals rotting upstream. You can filter it with your ceramic system, but you still have to carry it. 6 miles round trip to the nearest creek. 8.34 pounds per gallon. You need 10 gallons minimum to get through 2 days. That's 83 pounds on your back. You make the trip once. You're exhausted. Twice, your back starts failing. 3 times, you're injured and useless to your family. This isn't sustainable. This is slow-motion death, dressed up as survival. Bottled water hoarding doesn't solve it. You stockpile 500 gallons in your basement. That's 2 months for a family of 4 at minimum consumption. Then what? The supply's finite. The stores aren't restocking. The distribution centers are empty. The trucks aren't coming back. Here's the control mechanism nobody talks about. Every single access point for water in modern society is centralized and controlled. Municipal systems. Wells that need grid power. Bottled water from corporate supply chains. Even emergency distribution during disasters. FEMA shows up with water trucks after a hurricane. They set up distribution points. You stand in line for hours. You show ID. They ration 2 gallons per person, per day. You're grateful because you're thirsty. And your children are crying. But you're also dependent on their permission. And if they decide you're not compliant, if you're on the wrong list, if the policy changes, that permission gets revoked. If you can't access water without permission, you can't survive without compliance. So how do you access water when the taps are off and the trucks have stopped? You don't go to the water. You make the water come to you. And you do it in a way that no one can shut down. Your roof is a water generator. 1 inch of rain on 1,000 square feet equals 623 gallons. That's 6 months of drinking water from a single storm. Rainwater catchment isn't new. People have been collecting rain for thousands of years. But decentralized mesh networks of catchment points, coordinated across neighborhoods, are. Here's how it works. Gutters channel water from your roof to a first flush diverter. That's a simple valve device that diverts the initial dirty water, the stuff that washes off bird droppings, leaves, dust, and atmospheric pollutants. After the roof's been rinsed clean by the first gallon, the diverter closes, and clean water flows into storage tanks. From the tanks, it gravity feeds through your ceramic filter system. You've got potable water. The entire system runs on gravity. 0 pumps, 0 electricity, 0 moving parts to break. Let's talk numbers. The average U.S. home has a 1,500 square foot roof. Annual rainfall nationally averages 30 inches. That's 28,000 gallons per year. 76 gallons per day. For a family of 4 drinking 2 liters each per day, you need 2 gallons of drinking water. You've got 38 times what you need, just falling from the sky. Even in arid regions, the math works. 10 inches of annual rainfall on a 1,000 square foot roof gives you 6,230 gallons per year. That's 17 gallons per day. Still more than you need for basic survival. In coastal areas or mountain regions with fog, you can harvest moisture passively. Fog collection uses vertical mesh screens. Water vapor condenses on the mesh and drips into collection troughs below. A single square meter of mesh can yield 5 to 15 liters per day, depending on fog density. It's atmospheric water generation without electricity. Pure physics. Condensation. Gravity. The mesh network concept takes this further. You coordinate with your neighbors. Multiple properties. Multiple catchment points. Shared overflow routing. If one person's tanks are full, excess water routes to the next property in the network. If one system fails, 3 others remain operational. Decentralized. Redundant. Resilient. No single point of failure. This system can't be shut down by central authority. There's no infrastructure to cut off, no pipes to close, no valves to turn. It's entirely passive, gravity-fed, and distributed across dozens or hundreds of individual properties. As long as rain falls, you have water. And rain falls everywhere eventually. But here's why this matters beyond survival. A community with decentralized water generation, century-old filtration systems, and atmospheric backup isn't just prepared for collapse. They're ungovernable. They don't need permission to drink. They don't need approval to survive. And that's exactly why none of this is advertised in mainstream survival media or sold at outdoor retailers. Let's step back and look at the pattern. 3 technologies. Water generation from air. Filtration that lasts decades. Decentralized collection networks. Before today, you'd heard of none of them in a mainstream survival context. That's not an accident. That's a pattern. The modern economy isn't built on solving problems. It's built on managing problems. On selling you temporary relief that requires renewal, replacement, and repeat purchases forever. The water storage industry generates $5 billion annually selling plastic barrels, rotation pumps, and treatment chemicals that all fail on schedule. Every 5-gallon jug you buy degrades within 2 years. Every bleach bottle loses 50% potency within 12 months. Every barrel cracks eventually from UV exposure and temperature stress. You replace it. They profit. The cycle continues. The filter industry operates identically. LifeStraw's parent company, Vestergaard, built a business model that depends on filters dying after minimal use. You buy one for $30. It lasts 3 days of family use in a real emergency. And another. Over 10 years, you've spent $500 on disposable filters that end up in landfills. A ceramic gravity system costs $350 and lasts 30 years with basic maintenance. But that's one sale. One customer. One transaction. Then you're gone from their revenue stream forever. They don't want you gone. They want you coming back. Bottled water is a $300 billion global industry. If every household installed an atmospheric water generator and a rain catchment system, that industry collapses within a decade. No more recurring purchases. No more distribution networks. No more shelf space in every grocery store. The entire business model evaporates. Municipal water utilities represent $150 billion in annual revenue in the U.S. alone. They don't just provide water. They provide dependency and control. If communities decentralize, if neighborhoods build mesh catchment networks that function independently, that control fractures, they can't shut off what they don't own. They can't ration what they can't meter. They can't weaponize compliance if you're not connected to their infrastructure. The pattern is clear. A permanent solution transforms you from a recurring customer into a closed account. You solved your problem. You're done. You're out of the market. And in an economy built on subscription models, planned obsolescence, and artificial scarcity, that's a threat to every quarterly earnings call. They don't want you solving water. They want you renting hydration. Ceramic filters were commercialized in 1835. They worked then. They work now. But when industrial filtration created opportunities for consumable replacement cartridges and proprietary systems, the ceramic filters got quietly sidelined. Not banned, just excluded from mainstream marketing and retail distribution. Atmospheric water generators have existed since the 1000s. 990 seconds. But they're marketed as commercial or industrial only. Too expensive for residential use, the marketing says. The truth is simpler. A device that makes unlimited water from humidity destroys bottled water profit margins. Decentralized rain catchment is legal in most states. But HOA regulations and municipal codes often ban visible storage tanks. They call it aesthetics. It's control. If your water comes from your roof and flows through your filter, they can't meter it. They can't ration it. This is the game. Permanent solutions get buried under industrial jargon, expensive marketing for inferior alternatives, and regulatory barriers disguised as safety standards or aesthetic guidelines. The science doesn't care about quarterly earnings. Physics doesn't care about subscription revenue, and the people who understand this build real independence. You've got three pieces. Atmospheric generation for baseline production. These aren't just survival tools, they're exit strategies. This is how you opt out of a system designed to keep you thirsty, dependent, and compliant. Here's the integration. Your atmospheric water generator runs during dry seasons when rain is scarce. It pulls 20 to 30 liters per day from humidity in the air. Your rain catchment system activates during wet seasons. One moderate storm gives you 600 gallons from your roof. Your ceramic gravity filter purifies water from any source. Rain, air, creek, questionable well. All three systems feed into the same storage and distribution network in your home. The redundancy principle is anti-fragility. If one system fails, two others remain operational. If your AWG compressor breaks, you've still got rain catchment and filtration. If severe drought hits for months, you've got atmospheric generation and stored reserves. If storage tanks crack, you can generate and filter on demand. You're not dependent on a single point of success or failure. You're resilient. Cost reality. A DIY atmospheric water generator costs $400 in parts if you build it from a modified dehumidifier. A ceramic gravity filter system runs $350 for a quality Berkey or Dalton setup. Rain catchment with gutters, first flush diverters, and basic storage tanks costs $800 for a functional system. Total one-time investment, $1,550. Compare that to bottled water at $200 per month. Over 30 years, you spend $72,000 on plastic bottles that leach phthalates and BPA into your drinking water. The permanent system pays for itself in 8 months. After that, it's pure savings and independence for decades. Energy requirements are minimal. Pair your AWG with a 100-watt solar panel. That's enough to run the generator during daylight and charge a small battery bank for night operation. The rain catchment and ceramic filter use zero energy. Gravity does all the work. Scale this to a community level. 10 households in a neighborhood, each with meshed catchment systems and shared overflow routing. That's an unkillable water network. If one property's tanks are empty, 5 others have surplus to share. If 2 systems fail, 8 remain functional. You're not isolated preppers hiding in bunkers. You're a networked community that can't be starved into submission. And here's the critical part that changes everything. None of this is illegal, not restricted, not classified. You can build it, install it, and operate it without asking permission from any authority. It's just not advertised, not promoted, not sold at big box retailers. Obvio. The system doesn't hide it behind walls or laws. It hides it behind noise. Behind the assumption that you can't do better than what's on the shelf. Now, I want to hear from you. What other survival dependencies have permanent solutions that are suspiciously absent from mainstream markets? Drop it in the comments. Ona.com. Onona. The more we share, the harder we are to control. Stay independent. Physics doesn't negotiate with market forces.